Hello and welcome to High Ground Gaming. This is Eric. Tonight we're going to do our top 100 board games as of April of 2023. And this is going to be the list from numbers 20 to 11. So we're getting pretty close to the top 10. We'll be doing those tomorrow night with ID Gesture, Lower Slower Board Gamer, and what's his name? Phoenix Knight. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock on ID Gesture's channel, so tune in for us there. But in the meantime, I'm going to start off number 20 with a fairly recent game to my collection. It's a game where you're drafting dice and making woodworking type stuff for elves making woodworking projects and trying to get reputation to become the best woodworking company in the woods, I guess. This is the game called Woodcraft. It's got a 7.8 rating on BGG. It's 649 overall. Like I said, just came out in 2022. It's fairly heavy. It's 3.84. It's rated 338 in strategy. It is a game where you're going to be drafting dice and splicing dice and gluing dice and doing all kinds of things with dice. It's got a fantasy type setting, dice rolling, I guess you could say, in it. It does have a solo mode in it. This is the cover right here. It's by Vladimir Suchy, the designer of Underwater Cities, and a game in my list here. Shipyard, among others. He also did Pragna Kaput Regni. And so this is Woodcraft here. Let's see if I can show you some photos here. So these are the different helpers you can hire, which will give you production as well as a special ability, usually. The currency in this game is kind of different. It's blueberries, and the victory points are hazelnuts. Some more of the workers that you can hire there. There's level 1 and level 2 workers, early game and late game workers. This is an example of your, this is a player board right here. This is your wood shop in which you can be doing sawing, gluing, splicing, all these different qualities of wood here. The green is the lowest quality, the yellow is medium quality, and the brown is the highest quality there. Alright, so this is your player board. Up top is you're going to be earning tools and stuff to get bonuses. On your player board is where you put your workers, which will give you income. Income can occur in a couple different ways. Income can occur in victory points and in blueberries, which is your currency in the game. You can grow trees in the game too. It's a very tight game, only 14 rounds. There's interim income after a few rounds. There's endgame scoring it. This is an example of the this is the victory point track here. Up top is where you can buy different contracts to fulfill, and the contracts you have to fulfill them exactly. Like it requires a 6 and a 1 die green here. They have to be exactly 6 and 1. You can't have like a 6 and a 2 or something like that. On the bottom here, these are the different workers you can hire, helpers to help you. And there's, like I said, early game and late game helpers, as well as early game and late game contracts. This is the saw blade, which is where you take your actions. There's 6 different actions in the game. I think it's 6. It's either 6 or 7, but I believe it's 6. Looks like there might be 7 here for some reason. Maybe it's 7. But anyway, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I thought it was 6, but anyway. So what's cool about this game is that you take an action, taking one of these wood slots right here in your saw blade, and then you advance it to the next quadrant. If you pass by the blade, the edge of the saw blade, you have to rotate the saw blade, which will unlock bonuses in the middle there. There's bonuses on the outside too. This is your market for your different kinds of wood. You can hold up to 6 pieces of wood at one time, although during your turn you can have more than 6, but And again, there's different ways of splicing the wood, gluing the wood, cutting the wood, and all that stuff. Your endgame scoring is largely on part of this. On the bottom here is this reputation track, which can unlock bonuses. But it's your number of contracts times your number of times your reputation level. If you have any unfinished contracts at the end of the game, you lose reputation. So you have to be careful of that. But again, and this will also have your income, money income, and victory point income after so many rounds in the game. There's going to be a scoring, which you get rid of some of the cards and add new cards and all that kind of stuff. So, but a very fun little tight game, again, with a great solo mode, very quick playing, especially the solo mode. You can probably play a solo mode once you played a couple within a half an hour anyway, no more than a half hour or so, if you don't have AP. This is a full game right here, set up for 3 players, with the 3 player boards down below and the tracks and everything in the middle. So yeah, a very cool game by Vladimir Suchy and Ross Arnold, and that is Woodcraft, my number 20. All right, moving right along. The next one, I got this game with. I don't have the actual Woodcraft copy with me. My game group played it last week, and I didn't go to the game group, so it's still there. My next game is a game that I got along with Woodcraft, and that is a game in the T series of games by Daniel Tassani and Simone Luciani, and that game is Toletum, or however you want to pronounce it, Tiletum, or Toletum. I pronounce it Toletum. Anyway, this is a very cool game. It's got a resource wheel in it. Let me just show you here. So Toletum, it's an 8.0, 438 overall rank, 217 strategy. Came out also last year in 2022. A little bit lighter than Woodcraft. 3.40 out of 5. Does 1 to 4 players, or does have a solo mode. It has an overly complicated solo mode in my opinion. So my buddy Dave Smith on Board Game Geek here. Let's see if I can find it. See if it might be on the top page here. May or may not be. Recent threads. Yeah, it's in there somewhere. It's in the. I know you put a file on it too. There it is, right here. Variante Solo de Dave Smith. So basically, this is looks like a French version of his version, but his version is on here. It basically simplifies it, so it's kind of a beat your own score game, in which the original one is not. So if you don't like those, you might not like this, but it does simplify it to make it easy, because the solo mode in the game, I think, is unnecessarily overly complicated, but it does simulate another player, but it's a little hard to run, so it does tax you a little bit when you're trying to run it, especially the first couple of times. But just to show you some images from the game, this is the player board here. So basically, you're going to be drafting dice. The color of the die determines what type of resource you get. The pips on the die determine how many action. Well, the pips on the die determine the type of resource and the amount of the resource you get. The colors on the die determine. The pips on the die also determine, in reverse order, kind of thing, the type of action you take. There's 6 different actions in the game. One of which is 5 technically. One is wild. So for instance, they always add up to 7. So if you take 6 resources, you're only going to take 1 action. If you take 3 resources, having a die with a pip value 3, you'll take 4 actions, and so forth. There's ways to get extra actions and extra goods. There's the game is divided into 4 different fairs which occur during the game. So basically, you're going to draw 3 die on your during the round, depending in player order. And after the last person draws their 3rd die, then there'll be a fair in which there'll be a scoring in a certain categories. There's characters you can get, there's contracts you can fulfill, there's a king's track, there's a merchant and an architect. You have to maneuver around the building in order to build houses for the merchant, and for the architect build pillars in the different cities. And pillars you can build, allows you to build churches in different areas, which use stone as a resource. You have to either be present in the city where the fair is, or have a trading house there. Your merchant has to be there, or a trading house, in order to score in that fair. So it's a little tactical. You have to plan your moves accordingly. There's different characters you're going to fill the different houses on your player board, which unlock more houses. Contracts will unlock more pillars, but very tactical and fun and pleasing game by one of my favorite designers, Simone Luciani. And that is Toledo. All right, moving right along to my number 17 game. No, wait, sorry, 18 game. Yeah, that was 19. Yeah, number 18 game is another game by Simone Luciani. And that game, which I do not have a copy of here, it's at my game group. And that is called Lorenzo Il Magnifico. This was in the top 100 for the longest time. It just dropped out of it. It's 107 now with a strategy of 75. It's 7.9 rating, still very high. Came out in 2016. And basically its tagline is to avoid excommunication and lead your family to power during the Italian Renaissance. A little bit lighter than the other two, 3.30. It's by, the artist is Clemens Franz in this one. And they just did a reprint of it too, I think, which I think included the expansion possibly. I do have the expansion for it. Can't think of the name of the expansion, but I do have that, which adds variable powers to your families that you can draft. But it's a game basically. Let's see if I can show you here. This is a player board in which you're going to be drafting certain cards from towers, and this right here is an exploration type track right here, in which you're going to be drafting cards. But you have to, in order to draft beyond your second card, you have to have a certain amount of army presence, or military presence, military track. And up top here, this is the yellow track right here, which is a construction track in which you can get resources from too. These are the 4 towers in the game. What's cool about it is the first player to go to a different tower can place their family die, in that tower, but the next person that goes has to pay 3 coin in order to do that. So there's it's better to try to get first in these towers. The level of the tower will vary. Usually, I think it's 1, 3, 5, and 7. I think you have to have a die with those pit values. You basically have 4 family members, 3 of which are orange, black, and I think yellow, or orange, black, and one red. I think it might be red, but it's one other color. I'm sure it'll show the die in the other ones. But and then what happens is that your workers have pawns with a color on the top, a colored sticker on the top of them. And at the beginning of the round, you roll 3 die, and everybody uses the same die of different color of those 3 colors. You also have a neutral family member too. You can only ever place 1 family member in each tower of a colored die. You can place a neutral family member in the same as another one, but not any of the colored family members there. But basically, these are the 4 different towers in the game, and they're all different. The first tower is primarily the green tower, which is property and stuff, land areas, and then there's a blue, which is different characters in the game, which unlock special powers. Then there is a yellow tower right here, which is the construction. It gives you different resources and everything on the cards. And then the last one is the purple tower, which I can't think of what it is offhand, but it is a certain resource based on that. Down the bottom are different ways you can activate your the green track, the green cards in your tableau and the yellow cards, and other ones are just to get different resources. You can increase the values by hiring by getting these purple figures, which add like servants or nobles or whatever. I think they're servants or whatever. Yeah, servants, which add to your can add pip values to your die. This track in the middle here is very similar to other Simone Luciani games like Grand Austria Hotel. This is which has like an Emperor track. This is a Vatican track. You have to reach a certain level in the track after the first 2 rounds. And then there'll be a scoring. And if you haven't reached that track, you're going to face some kind of excommunication from the Vatican. And then you can either score that if you want to, or take the penalty. If you haven't reached it, obviously you have to take the penalty. If you decide you're past it, but the penalty doesn't matter to you, you can just keep on going and take the victory points, but just keep on adding to your faith points to this. It's scored through faith points, which you can get through the various cards and other ways through favors and stuff. Let's see here. There's different resources you can get if you don't want to go on any of the towers. You can gather different scrolls and resources there, faith points and or military action points, of which all these cards can give you those too. See, this is the military track on the right side here. But a very fun game, very satisfying game. There's I think the game takes place over 6 rounds. After every 3rd round, there's a Vatican scoring. So Vatican scoring will happen 3 times during the game. Let's see here. Yeah, this is a game setup with 4 players. So it's a very busy game. There's not a lot of variation in the cards. They do come out in a different order. The same round cards will come out in the same round, but just in a different order. But there is a totally different set of rounds of cards you can get, which I have, which add a little more variety to the game. Yep, so these are the cards set up here with the different things involved in them. As you can see, the cards will have a certain pip die on them to activate during your production phases, which you have to get a minimum of family member of that. These are higher up ones. And then the price cost right here is in the thing. Sometimes you'll get bonus resources when you draft cards. Yeah, but a very fun. And there's also a characters expansion too, which will add different bonuses if you achieve them, like different I think kings or nobles, different types of nobles. If you meet their demands or something like that, you get a bonus. They give you a bonus. These are your family members right here. As you can see, they got the stickers on them for the different colors. You also get a few little I'm not sure exactly, I can't remember exactly what these are used for, these tracks, I mean these cubes right here. But yeah, resources are stone, wood, kind of typical, and the helpers there, the servants, I think they're called. Let's see here, and that's pretty much the game there. The expansion adds a 5th tower to it too, or it changes the amount of pips needed in each tower, as well as you can bid for different family members by seeing how many resources you're willing to sacrifice in order to get that family, which different families give you different bonuses in the expansion. But it's a very good modular expansion. I believe it's modular. Yeah, these are some of the different cards in the game. Some give you bonuses to pips on die. Some of them make stuff cheaper, like make characters cheaper. Some allow you to get an extra character during that turn. These are bonuses you can get. This is military and a scroll power you can get, as well as 3 victory points at the end of the game. So the purple, yeah, I think purple has mostly end game scoring. That's it for the most part. That's what it has in it. Couldn't remember what it was, but again, this is military presence here, and you'll get certain, depending on how many military cards you have here, how many territory cards you have, which require different military points, you'll get victory point bonuses at the end of the game. The blue cards also give you points at the end of the game, as well as I don't know if the yellow cards do that. The yellow cards have victory points on them, so when you buy them, you get victory points. This on the left side right here, and these, I think they're different for each player. They can be asymmetric. You'll get, when you do production, as long as you roll a die with a pit value of 1, which you have to, you'll get these bonuses on the left here. And these other bonuses you only get if you roll a 5 on this card and you roll a 4 on this card. You can still use the production thing, but you won't get, if you say you use a 4 pip value, you'll get the bonuses on this card, which is 2 stone, but you won't get them on this card because you didn't reach that 5. You can, like I said, you can bolster the die value, like if you have a pip value of 4 and you use one of these purple workers, that will make it a 5, and then that way you'll be able to score this card. So there's different ways to mitigate the die values. But that is my number 18, and that is Lorenzo Il Magnifico by Simone Luciani. Alright, next is it's another game by Simone Luciani. They're kind of bunched up here. And this is a game with an excellent solo mode, very tactical game. And I didn't have the Lorenzo game with me, but I do have this one. And this game is after a famous inventor and jack of all trades, and that is Newton. So this one is 367 ranking overall, 223 strategy, 7.6 excellent solo mode, 1 to 4 players. It takes about 90 minutes. Plays fairly quickly. Again, Simone Luciani, and this one he did with Nestora Mangone. But this is a game of going up different tracks and everything. You have basically, these are 2 boards here. This is a board here with your students, which they'll travel to different universities. No, the universities is on the top. They travel to different universities there. These are just different goals that the students will unlock as they travel. And you can see it's the during the setup you put different tiles on there, so a lot of replayability in that. The tiles up top allow you to visit different different universities or achieve different skills or unlock different bonuses. There's also certain I'm not sure if they call them experts, but they call them something. You get like 4 or 5 during the game, and if you reach that certain famous person, you unlock an ability. Your player boards are these ones at the top here. I'll see if I can get a better picture of those. This right here is your a little too big. Is your player board, and you have book tracks on this, which unlock different bonuses, usually some type of money or victory points each round. The cool part of this game is the card play. You have this guy looks like he's looking through some of his characters that he's got, but every person starts with the same set of either 5 or 6 cards, and each action is represented on one of those cards, as well as a certain amount of maybe possibly books on those cards. But your actions, the strength of your actions is determined by the amount of that action you put on your board. Like, you put 1 card down here on your board, you'll get an action of strength 1. If you put another one with, say, that's that same action card on it, you'll get a strength of 2, and so forth. So as long as, and those cards will be cumulative, so even if you have an action here with a certain action here to move up on 1 track, and you have another one way over on the first slot, it still counts as having it on your board, so you can still take a strength action of 2, and so forth. The key part of this game is at the end of the 5 actions you take, that ends the round, and you have to tuck one of those cards, which you'll lose its effect, the bonus part of its effect forever, but it'll give you an ongoing ability, an ongoing strength of a certain action, and you tuck those on the bottom, and on the bottom here you'll get to use that in the second and ongoing rounds. So you'll build up a lot of tuck cards here, which your actions will get stronger and stronger as you go. You can also add different cards to that deck of higher strengths by purchasing them through different actions. I think it's a study action or something like that, but a different action in the game. Let's see if I can show you here. Let's see. Yeah, this is the university board, which these are different universities you can go to, and you have to have different universities. If you visit it, you'll put a cube in that university that you visited it, and certain books on your player board, you'll have to have visited a certain university in order to place a token on that track there. This is a work track on top here. As you can see, it's got different bonuses you can unlock, and at the end it's got a character you can unlock. But at the end you have to have a certain amount of different books. Like this requires 4 green books and 1 purple book, and those books you get on your player board. On the board itself, the cards, the secondary actions on the boards will have a certain amount of colored books on there. And you have to get the right combination of stuff. Potions here you can get to, I can't remember what it is, but it adds a certain ability to it. I know you can mitigate your actions, make them stronger by adding coins to that action. Yeah, a lot of nice stuff in this game. That is my number. And you have student tracks. You can add students. I think it's for 5 gold. You can add an extra student on your track. Because once a student reaches the end of a track, he has to stay there for end-game scoring it, and you can't move him again. They can only ever move in one direction. So you have to add other workers there. Money can be very tight in this game. Yep. That is my number 17, and that is Newton by Simone Luciani. Alright, moving right along to my number 16 is a game with a lot of dice rolling in it. It's a game very thematic. It is a solo. It has a cooperative mode in it, but to me it feels just tacked on, and most people that I know that play it only play it solo. Very thematic, based on a novel. I think it was Jules. Was it Jules Verne? I think it was. Forgive me if I don't have the right name there, but it's an adventure game based on the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea novel, and that is Nemo's War. And I have the 2nd edition here in Victory Point Games. The artwork was done by Ian O'Toole, he's a renowned board game artist, very popular. I have a lot of his games. A lot of the games I get because of his artwork. Parts of the reason. So it's rated 7.9. I rated it a 9.5. 1 to 4 players, like I said, but best at 1. I would only ever play it at 1. Although, like I said, it does have a tacked on cooperative mode. Weight is 3.27. Its rank overall is 288, and it's thematic 45, so very high in the thematic rating. You have different motives you're going to play for Nemo. It's a game. It has a lot of press your luck elements in it. Area majority, dice rolling. Yeah, Jules Verne, he was the artist there. You'll have a certain amount of action points you can take each round based upon your die rolls. But it's a game I backed on Kickstarter, and you can upgrade your Nautilus as you sail the seas, the different oceans. Let's see if I can get it closer up here on the action board. This here just shows the action board here. So these are your event cards, which you're going to be putting together an event deck, depending upon your motive and everything. So yeah, I think the game takes place over 3 acts with a finale, and is one of like 5 or 6 finale cards you could get at the end. So there is a lot of variability in the game. And the cards you don't use in the event deck, you can put in the action deck, which you can draw from later on. Yeah, again, these are the different tests. So you're going to be performing a lot of different types of tests in the game. That's pretty much, that's your Nautilus right there. Let's see here. These are the different ships and everything that you're going to be battling against. Some merchant ships and some, warships. So as the game gets harder, you're going to unlock the harder ships and everything. So basically, these are where the ships are going to come out, and as you travel to different oceans, you're going to have to battle those ships. You can either take the ships and use them as salvage, as the tonnage track right here, which you'll get points if you fill different columns. You'll get more and more points as the more columns you fill. Or you can salvage them and use them to buy upgrades. This right here, here are your 3 tracks in the game, which you can exert, different strengths, and these help to mitigate your die rolls. So you can either exert Nemo, crew, or your hull. And so what you do is you would say if it started on the crew on the end here, you would move it to here, and this will add +3 to your die rolls. If ever you lose a roll that you exert on, you'll keep going to the right here. So this would go to this next point right here, and so forth. Nemo does get stronger as he gets more insane. But if you ever reach the end of any one of these 3 tracks, you lose the game. There are other ways to bring it back to the left after you lose like different things here. This is a notoriety track up top here, and depending upon your motive, if you reach certain points, you get defeat. Like this one right here is defeated if you are, I can't read that, but it looks like 2 different Nemo motives. You would lose the game if you reach that. This one is exploration. If you ever get a 36 on your already track, you will lose the game there if you use that motive. And I think there's at least one other one in the base game, and then I think the expansion adds another motive or 2. These parts right here were the 14, and there's a few others, and then on this one here, the bigger areas right here will add ships to the bag in which you can draw from. But they're harder ships. They're all warships and everything. So you're either gonna, each time you draw an event, you're either gonna pass it or fail it, depending upon if you pass the test or don't pass the test. These action points, the action points you get each round is the difference between the highest and the lowest die rolls. Like say if you rolled a 1 and a 4, you would get 4 minus 1 or 3 actions for that turn. You can save an action from round to round. If ever you roll doubles, it's called a lull turn, and you can take actions which are cheaper. However, you have to have saved an action from the last round in order to take an action during a lull turn. But there's different benefits and stuff you can get. You can do searches in different areas. You can cause these different insurrection and everything like that, or which can cause diversions and stuff in these different areas, basically helping out the local populations. Will take the focus off of you if you have that type of motive in which you're trying to help others. Yeah, but there's a lot to this game. But again, if you don't like, it is a lot of dice rolling in this game. If you don't like dice rolling, then you're not going to like this game at all. But there's enough mitigation in the game where it can get frustrating at times, but still it's one of my favorite games just because of all the different insurrection cubes. I think that's what it is. Or Uprising, that's what they are. And you have a certain amount you can get. This is an upgrade right here, which you can't really see much of, but this is one of the upgrade cards you can get, which give you different bonuses during battle or some, or different types of attacks you can get. There's different treasure cards which give you bonuses in it too, which you can use those during different tests and everything. But yeah, very cool game, and that is my number 16, Nemo's War 2nd edition. Alright, moving right along. A Rosenberg game, which is basically, it means work in prayer, and that game is Ora et Labora, or Ora en Labora. It says Ora et Labora here, and Ora en Labora on the title. Basically manage workers and resources to build up the land around your medieval monastery. Very cool game. It's definitely probably the best resource conversion game that I have. Definitely the highest rank. This is the production wheel right here, which will determine how much you get of each resource. So on a multiplayer game, as well as a solo game too, but a multiplayer game, wherever the dial is, that's how many of that resource you'll get. So you have like a certain amount of wheat resources, grapes, sheep, wood, stone. That's wood, I think, there too. And this is, I don't know what that is. I can't remember what that one is. And then there's a joker resource, which you can use as anything. So basically, in a multiplayer game, you're trying to trying to get the most resources, but hoping that other players don't take that one resource that you're letting trying to build up. So there's a little bit of like, do I take that resource now, or do I risk it going away and going back down to 0? So yeah, so it can be very timing is very important in this game. You're going to be building settlements and surrounding those settlements with yeah, there's the action wheel right there. So basically you have a like this card in the middle is a settlement card, I think, and then you surround it with other cards, and when you score a settlement, you basically score all the cards, including the settlement around it, so all the 8 cards, and then a settlement in the middle there, and that's the majority of your scoring. These different cards will give you different conversion abilities for the most part. They'll allow you to take different resources and convert them into better resources or stronger resources, and you're going to need to do that in order to get some of these buildings, because some of these buildings require you, in order to even buy them, they require you to have different resources. And these are all settlements right here. They give you a certain amount of victory points, depending upon whether or not they're the settlement or they're a surrounding card. But yeah, very fun game of resource management and conversion. Yeah, and that game came out in, let's see, where did it come out in? Let's see if I can, I have to move my camera here so I can get back to where it was. Let's get back to the original page. Yeah, so it came out, it's an older game, it came out in 2011. And again, very fun, very good solo game. Louis Romansberg, the artist, Clemens Franz. It does have a little bit of variability in it. You can play as either the French side or the Irish side, which are slightly different. I think there's a couple buildings that are different in each one. So it really begs to have an expansion. It is rated really, weight really high. It's 3.89, 7.7, ranked 181 overall, strategy 121. So very fun game. Very, I think, underappreciated game, I think, especially with all these other games coming out. But it's definitely one that will rank pretty high. As you can see, it ranks very high. It ranks number 15 in my collection, and that's or Labora by Louis Rosenberg. All right, trying to not to cut myself off here. All right, next is my number 14 game. This game takes place in the Art Nouveau era of the 1890s, late 1890s. It's Brussels, 1893. This game, I really like the artwork in it. The artwork is what really kind of makes the game for me. Another pretty heavy Euro game, 3.59. Basically, you're going to be managing your workers to help usher in a new era of culture and progress in Brussels. Brussels 1893. They do have a card game version of this game, which is Brussels 1897, which I have played. This game I just like better because of the tactical feel, and a few other mechanisms are easier to see. I think are better in here for me than the card game. Card game kind of just simplifies everything, obviously. So that game is, this game is ranked 392 overall, 229 strategy. It's by Pearl Games. The designer is Etienne S. Pressman. It's the only game I know of that he's put out. At least the only game that I've heard of. So this is it. This is a player board right here. You're going to be building buildings. You're going to be getting a victory point scoring here. You build buildings come off your player board here in the middle. And you have like a reputation track, I think it is here. So it's a bidding game. So these area on the right here, each round you're going to score a certain section of the board depending upon where this T square is put right here, kind of thing. This little L-shaped thing, which is determined by flipping this token in the middle, which will determine a couple different things: the stock market area, and as well as which areas are going to be scored. And this is important because you're going to be taking your actions by putting workers with a certain amount of coins on these different actions here. you're also going to be building your buildings on these actions, so you'll get bonuses when other players put a worker on your on an area where you've built on already. There's an area majority for the columns, so at the end of the round, after everybody's done bidding, whoever has bid the most in these columns will unlock the bonuses here at the bottom. If it's a tie, nobody gets the bonus. You can each score the bonus in the middle, but nobody gets to keep the card. The highest person who bid in the on this bonus card here will get the card itself and be able to tuck it on their player board, which will give them, as you can see here, these are end game bonuses here. They'll get at the end of the ground, like certain categories will score extra points. Your workers can get tied up in bureaucracy over here on the right, and on the left, sorry. And they do that if you take any of the actions here on the left side in the city quarters area, then they get tied up in bureaucracy. And the person who has the most workers in this area loses a worker or player or players. And what's cool about this is whenever somebody takes an action with one meeple, in order for somebody else to take an action here, they have to put 2 meeples. It's kind of one of those things. You have to put more workers than the last person did. And that's how, and how much are you willing to risk over here, because you might lose a worker to that. Different tracks here. This is like, one of them is a building track. One of them is a city area track here. This track right here is when you sell paintings, you get a certain amount of victory points and coins. So these people right here, somebody sold a pink painting and a green painting. So the next person would have to sell a different color. I say like a yellow painting. They couldn't, because people like variety in that era. So you can't sell a painting that's already been sold. You have to sell something different. This right here, this wheel is really ingenious. It determines the resources you have to spend in order to construct buildings, wood, stone, and I think something else. But you have to build in those certain types of resources in order to build if you don't have those resources. And you can use what's called prestige resources, in which you'll get the most points for, and inferior resources, in which if you don't use the best quality resources, you get a hit. You don't get as many victory points. These are workers that you can hire, but you have to pay their salary at the end of the game. If you don't pay their salary at the end of the game, you can lose victory points. But a very fun, very involved, nice little Euro, and that is Brussels 1893. All right, moving right along. My next game is an economic game. It's and I don't have the Brussels 1893 here. In fact, I only have a couple more here. Next one is an economic game. It's a modular board game. Very cool game based in Japan. And that game is Yokohama. In Yokohama, it's ranked number 123 overall, strategy 92. It's claim your fame as the dominant merchant in the Meiji period of Yokohama. But yeah, this is it's a very cool game. Very fun economic game. It is on BGA. So this is kind of like an example of a setup. These cards in the middle. This is like, it might be a 4-player game. It can be a very busy game. These are different games in which different cards in which have different industries on them, in which you can get different resources, or there's churches on here, or trading houses. There's like a harbor here and then up top here. And every round you're going to be placing one worker on each card, but it has to be. It doesn't have to be adjacent to your other workers, but you place. I think it's initially 3 workers. Well, you can place 3 workers on 3 different cards, or 2 workers on the same card. That's how it works. And then you place a president on an area where you have some of your workers on. And the action that you take is where you place your president. Let's see if I can get a better picture here. But anyway, that'll determine a certain amount of resources you'll get, cards you can buy, contracts you can choose, tracks you can go up, just different things there. Very involved game. Again, a lot of setup if you have the board game. That's why I prefer to play this on BGA, just because they do all the setup and teardown for you. But these are the different resources of the game. I think silk, trade goods, fish, brick. That's the yen right there. And then can't remember what that one is. But you have to unlock more workers, more trading houses during the game. These are the different contracts you can fulfill. Again, these are 2 different houses so you can go to get contracts. They just happen to be right next to each other. But yeah, so every game is different because these cards come out in different order and everything. You can never place your president on another card where there already is a president, or else you have to pay a fee, I think. Or you can't place a worker on where another president is. You have to pay a fee. If ever you have to, and in order to move your president after he's placed initially, you have to have a string of cards that have, like, say if you wanted this, you're the green guy and you wanted to move all the way up to the top here where this yellow thing is, you have to, hey Miss Mags, you have to have a string of connected yellow, connected green tiles where you have a green employee on there. So, very tactical, just fun little game. And there's lots of different ways that the game ends, so you have to be aware of all that stuff too. How close players are getting to that, because the game could all of a sudden just end on the next turn. This set collection with the contracts and the other things that you're collecting from different countries. You want cards from different countries and everything to get the most points. But yeah, very fun economic game. This is the victory point track over here. And the different players. It's like a 2-player game here. And there's endgame scoring too. You can get endgame goals, like most good Euros. And that is Yokohama, my number 13. All right, the next one is a game that I played with ID Gesture on his channel, on BGA. It is a beast of a game, and that is another Uwe Rosenberg game, and that is A Feast for Odin. 8.2, ranked number 23 overall. Probably definitely one of the highest ranked games I have on my list. There is a couple, I think, on my top 10 that are higher than that. At least one I know for sure. Maybe only one. Can't remember. No, 2. I think there's at least 2. Yeah, there's at least 2 that I can think of off the top of my head. It's ranked number 18 overall. It came out in 2016. So it's a puzzle together a life of a Viking village as you hunt, farm, craft, and explore. Again, another very heavy game, 3.86, 1 to 4 players. Plays excellently solo. 30 to 120 minutes. That's probably about right. I don't think 30 minutes though. I think is if you really know the game well and you're playing it solo. Otherwise, I would say probably a minimum of 60 minutes, at least for me anyway. At least it's a minimum hour game for me, probably if not longer, because I don't play it enough to get that good at it. There's just so much to this game. It's definitely probably the most expansive game, takes up the most table space just about of any game. These are all the different resources, and it's different layers of resources, tiers of resources. On the bottom to the top here, 4 different tiers. This is a player board right here, which you can buy ships. You have to do like Tetrisy, polyomino things in order to fill your board, so you can get a lot of negative points. You start the game with like negative 60 something points, I think. And then if you get different islands you can explore, you get more negative possible points. But you can get resources if you fill these correctly. So you're gonna have to get a lot of goods. You do raiding and pillaging, which is this blue board right here. Buying ships, going whaling, trapping, hunting, raising animals. Just a lot of these little houses right here you can get to. Resource boards which you're going to have to visit to get mountain resource boards that you're going to have to get. Oops. You get your wood, stone, ore, and silver off of money. Yeah, these are all the different cards you can get. On top here, these are the different weapon cards you're going to be getting each round in order to do the different activities. These are a lot of these are ongoing abilities and some end-game scoring things on them. A lot of these cards may not fit to your style of play. Thankfully, in the expansion, there's ways of getting rid of these cards and getting points for them if you're the first to get rid of these cards if you're not going to use them. Otherwise, they just kind of clog up your hand a little bit. Yeah, all the different rule books and appendices. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite games by one of my favorite designers. These are some examples of the cards you can get, which give you different abilities or different resources on them. Sometimes you get negative victory points on them, so you may not want to use that one. But you do get some good benefits for them if you do use them. Alright, and that is my number 12, and that is A Feast for Odin. And I do have the box for that right here. Like I said, I do have the expansion, which I think is an essential expansion. The game was great without it, but it gets even better, I think, with the expansion. Tightens up some things on it and just makes the game better, I think. Yeah, those are the different mountain resources you can get. And that's an example of the different, that's like a round, what happens in a round. But most of the stuff you're going to be doing is in this action phase right here. There is a feed your people element to the game, like most of your Rosenberg games that involve some kind of farming in it. But yeah, an excellent game. All right, and my last one in this top in 20 to 11 is another one by Simone Luciani, and that is a dice game, but a very cool dice game with lots of different variable player powers, and that is the Voyages of Marco Polo. You get 7.8, 83 overall, so I'm in the game in the top 100. Yeah, a lot of these games are going to be close to, like I said, the top are the top of the top. So, especially the next 10 games, my top 10. But using unique abilities to fulfill contracts and reach your goals along the Silk Road. This game does not have a solo mode that I know of. I've never played it solo. I don't think I have. The expansion might add a solo mode, but I don't think it does. Probably one of the few games that I have in my top 50 that doesn't have a solo mode. But anyway, it's 3.19, so not super heavy, probably medium weight, I'd say. At 40 to 100 minutes, I'd say an hour to an hour and 20 probably for me at least. But a very fun game, and I do have the box for that one. It's a game I got in a trade. I've had this for a while, and there it is. It does have a sequel to it, Marco Polo 2, in Service of the Khan, I think it is, which I don't have, but I've played on BGA. This game is also on BGA. A good version of it there. I play this game probably mostly on BGA now. Let's see here. Yep, so these are the different die, which you can buy resources. So this is just one of the tracks here. So on the bottom track, you can buy camels. Camels are kind of like the way you move around the board a lot. Camels and money. Then you can buy the different resources in the game, which is pepper, silk, and gold. Gold is the most valuable, but a very cool way to buy these goods. The pepper, you just have to have a 1 die on it, and it determines the strength of your action there. So you get a 4 strength of pepper. So these 6s on top allow you to go all the way to the right on the gold track, and you have to have at least 3 die of the same pip value. Well, they don't have to be the same pip value. The highest pip value determines the strength of the 3 die that you place there. So if you had a 6, a 6, and a 2, and a 1, then you can only get this 1 piece of gold right here. But you still have to have 3 die, so you might have to do that. But you're going to want to try to get, obviously, as high a pip value of die as you can. These are the different cities that you're going to go, and you put trading posts in the cities as you visit them, which will unlock another worker placement area, which you can put a die on to take an action according to the pip value of the die. There's minor cities like this Ormuz here, in which you can get an ability which you can trigger when you land on it, and then you'll get this bonus every round. These are your different travels. This is an example of a player character you play as. This character right here gives you two pawns on the board at one time, so it allows you to basically cover more land area, and you get like an immediate bonus of a camel each round. So, but the player powers in this one they're all like OP, but they're all OP, so it makes them okay. When you travel the board here, you got to pay these camel costs as well as costs to travel. If you're the first person generally to go in a certain action spot, like this spot right here, then you don't have to pay any extra. But if you if you wanted to take this action to get contracts, and you wanted this one contract right here, and you had a 1 pip value, you would have to stack it on top of this, and then you'd have to pay a coin for each pip value of the die that you placed on top of it, unless you had a certain character which allows you not to do that. This contract on the left tells you what resources you have to pay, and then on the right what you get. Like this one gets you an extra black die, which is kind of like a wild die, and a 5 victory points. So contract completion is important as a bonus for the person having the most contracts completed, the most trading houses, different things like that. This is an extra somebody added here to the game. Yes, somebody pimped up their game here. Beijing is kind of like a city way away from the starting point usually, and if you play the first to place there, you get 10 points, 7 points, 4 points. Trading houses there, and then you can score your resources at the end of the game. You'll left your resources if you have a trading house in Beijing. Otherwise, you can't. Movement can be a little tricky in this game. So basically, you start off with a certain amount of die here, and you roll the die every round. This character is pretty cool. He allows you to set the value of your die every round, which can seem definitely OP, but when you see some of the other characters, you'll see that it's really not, because that's the only bonus he gets. Yeah, again, these are the different pit values. There's the different tracks you can go on, which have different rules of placement on it. You can see this one's stacked up pretty high, so 4 people took the travel action. You can only ever place one color die of the same, like the blue person couldn't place 2 more blue die on there. You can place neutral die on a thing. Like this one has a white die on it, which one of the characters gives you a bonus white die every round. Or you couldn't place, like I said, 2 black die on this. 2 black die is kind of a neutral color, but you might get 2 bonus die. And there's a certain amount of black die that come out every round, and you can get those by fulfilling contracts and different. I think it's mostly fulfilling contracts, or you can buy one. I think for 3 camels. That's what it is. Yeah. So camels are very important resources. Camels are generally a very contested spot, especially on this board right here, because you need camels for just about everything, for contracts, for moving around the board. But yeah, very fun game. Nice, definitely one of my favorite dice manipulation games, and that is the Voyages of Marco Polo by Simone Luciani. Yeah, very fun game though, and it does have an expansion to it, which is pretty hard to get. Agents of Venice, I think it is, are pretty expensive to get, so I don't have that. But still a very fun game with lots of replayability in it, I think. Playing as the different characters. There's certain characters that I prefer over others too. But yeah. So alright, so that is my number 11. So that is it for this week's list. And like I said, tomorrow night we're going to be doing, or whenever you watch this, Sunday night, May 28th is it, I think? Day before Labor Day, anyway. On Sunday night, we're going to be doing the 2023, our top 10 board games of all time. So that's the best of the best. So, all right. So I'm just going to end it here. So thank you for joining me. It's been Eric from High Ground Gaming with my number 20 for 11 of my top 100 board games as of April of 2023. So take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the last conclusion video. Bye-bye now.